My name is Clara Mitchell, and I am 29 years old. Christmas used to be my absolute favorite time of year. I grew up in the Mitchell household in Greenwich, Connecticut, where the holiday celebrations were always over the top and elegant. But everything changed one December afternoon when I discovered something that shattered my entire world. I had always been different from the rest of my family. While my father, David Mitchell, built his investment empire from nothing, and my mother, Patricia, served on every charity board in town, I chose a different path. My older brother, James, who is 33, followed perfectly in Dad's footsteps. My sister, Sarah, who is 31, became the corporate lawyer our parents bragged about at every country club dinner. And then there was me, the family disappointment who chose to design jewelry instead of pursuing law or finance. I attended Columbia University, just like my siblings, but during my second year, I took a metalworking class as an elective, and something inside me came alive. For the first time in my life, I felt truly happy creating things with my own hands. By my senior year, instead of applying to law schools like everyone expected, I was selling my handmade jewelry at campus markets and craft fairs. My family's reaction was swift and brutal. Dad refused to speak to me for 4 whole months. Mom scheduled meetings with family connections at law firms, trying to force me into interviews. James and Sarah alternated between uncomfortable silence and lectures about how I was wasting my expensive education and natural potential. But I refused to give up on my dream. After graduation, I used my savings to rent a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn and set up my first jewelry workshop. I survived on ramen noodles for months, worked 16-hour days, and slowly built Clara Designs from absolutely nothing. 6 years later, my pieces were being sold in boutiques throughout New York and New Jersey. I was finally making a decent living doing what I loved. Not that my family saw it as real success. Every single family gathering featured the same painful conversations about my career choices. Mom would sigh dramatically and ask, "Are you still doing that jewelry thing?" Dad would respond with something like, "When you are ready to get serious about your future, let me know." James would offer to look over my financial books as if I was playing at business rather than running one. Sarah would graciously send me job postings for executive assistant positions, as if my degree and business experience meant absolutely nothing. This particular Christmas was supposed to be extra special for my parents. Relatives were flying in from the West Coast and Europe, some we had not seen in years. Mom had been planning since August, hiring additional staff and remodeling guest rooms. When she called me in November about the gathering, I heard genuine excitement in her voice for the first time in forever. "Clara, everyone will be here this year," she said enthusiastically. "Even Grandma Eleanor is flying in from London. We need to present a united family front." That tiny hint of inclusion made me want to try even harder. I spent 4 entire months creating custom jewelry pieces for each person attending. I designed cufflinks featuring the logo from Dad's first business card. I made a beautiful necklace showcasing Mom's favorite flowers. For James and Sarah, I created matching bracelets with subtle symbols from our childhood. I carefully designed pieces for extended family members based on their interests and personalities. I even invested in new business cards with elegant gold foil and professional packaging to impress the Mitchell family standards. Maybe this would be the year they finally saw my business as legitimate. Maybe this would be the Christmas when I finally felt like I truly belonged in my own family. I had absolutely no idea that this visit would change everything. I pulled into my parents' circular driveway at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon on December 18th. The mansion was already decorated for Christmas, with professionally installed white lights outlining every architectural feature, enormous wreaths on each window, and 2 perfectly symmetrical decorated trees flanking the front entrance. Rosa, the housekeeper, answered the door with a warm smile. Unlike my family, Rosa had always shown genuine interest in my jewelry business, proudly wearing a simple silver bracelet I had given her years earlier. "It is so lovely to see you, Miss Clara," she said kindly. "Your mother and Sarah are in the kitchen with the caterer." I walked into the immaculate house and found my mother and Sarah hunched over a tablet with a man wearing a chef's coat. They barely glanced up as I entered. "Clara, finally," my mother said without moving to hug me. "The guest room in the east wing is ready for you, not your old room. We needed extra storage space this year." No greeting, no asking how my drive was, no mention that my old room had been my bedroom for 19 years. "Hello, Mom, Sarah. The house looks beautiful," I said, trying to start positively. Sarah glanced up briefly. "You look exhausted. The city must really be wearing you down." This was not a question, but a judgment disguised as concern. I forced a smile. "Actually, business has been really good, very busy with holiday orders. I brought samples of the gifts I made for everyone." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "We are finalizing the menu right now. The caterer needs our full attention. Maybe later." I had clearly been dismissed. "Sure, no problem. I'll just take my things upstairs," I said quietly. Neither responded as I left. That familiar knot of disappointment tightened in my stomach. After settling into the guest room, I went to find my father and brother, hoping for a warmer reception. As I approached Dad's study, I heard multiple voices in serious discussion. I was about to knock when I heard my own name spoken. "Clara needs to understand that this jewelry hobby is not a sustainable future," my father said firmly. I froze, with my hand inches from the door. "That's exactly why I invited Stephen," my brother James said. "As a financial advisor, he can provide actual numbers during the intervention, show her how unstable her situation is compared to a real profession." Intervention. The word hit me like a physical blow. I carefully positioned myself beside the half-open door, out of sight but within hearing range. "Do you truly think an intervention at Christmas dinner is the best approach?" This voice belonged to my Uncle Daniel, Dad's younger brother. "It's the perfect time," my mother added. "With the entire family present, she'll feel enough pressure to finally make a sensible decision." Dad explained, "I've already spoken with Gregory at the firm. He can create a position for her in the marketing department." Sarah's voice joined in. "The last time I suggested she explore other options, she talked about her Instagram followers growing as if that was any measure of success." They all laughed, and the sound cut through me like glass. "What exactly are you planning to say?" Uncle Daniel asked. My mother said, "We will wait until after the main course. David will express our concern for Clara's future, then James will introduce Stephen, who will provide a brief financial comparison of her so-called business versus a corporate position." James explained, "I've gathered some numbers. Based on her apartment size and lifestyle, she can barely be making $35,000 a year. Stephen will contrast that with entry-level corporate roles starting at $70,000. They had been watching me, calculating my worth based on my apartment size? "What happens if she refuses?" Uncle Daniel asked. A long silence followed before my father spoke. "Then we make it crystal clear that our financial support ends completely." I nearly gasped. What financial support? I had been completely self-sufficient since graduation. "While she is at dinner, I've arranged for the staff to completely clear out her childhood bedroom," my mother said. "Cousin Vanessa needs the space." My vision blurred with tears. My childhood bedroom was going to be emptied while I endured public humiliation. Sarah observed with a laugh, "She still has those ridiculous participation trophies from grade school art classes displayed, as if they validated her decision to give up a real career for this jewelry hobby." My mother chimed in, "Did you see what she wore to Thanksgiving? That handmade dress looked like something from a thrift store." James concluded, "Hopefully this intervention will finally get through to her. 29 is not too late to start over with a respectable career." My mother said proudly, "I have the perfect analogy prepared. I'm going to tell her that her little jewelry business is like the macaroni art we used to hang on the refrigerator, cute as a childhood phase, but not something to build an entire life around." They all laughed again, and I heard glasses clinking in a toast. I stepped away silently, tears streaming down my face. I wandered back to the guest room in complete daze, locked the door, and collapsed onto the floor. The beautiful jewelry pieces I had created lay in their velvet boxes, representing hours of work and love they would never appreciate. For the first time, I saw with absolute clarity what my family truly thought of me. This was not tough love. This was control, manipulation, and complete disrespect for who I actually was. I cannot remember packing my bag or walking down the back stairs. I do not remember the brief conversation with Rosa where I mumbled something about an emergency. The next clear memory is sitting in my car at a highway rest stop, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called Emily, my best friend from college. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Clara, are you already at the family fortress? How bad has it been?" The sound of her voice broke through the shock. I burst into tears, barely forming sentences between sobs. They were planning an intervention at Christmas dinner, financial shaming, clearing out my room. "Whoa, slow down," Emily said, voice shifting to concern. "Where are you right now? Are you safe?" I looked around the brightly lit rest area. "I am at a rest stop. I left. I could not stay after what I heard." "Good, you should not be driving this upset. Just breathe for a minute," she said gently. I followed her instruction, taking deep breaths while she waited patiently. After a few minutes, I described everything I had overheard. Emily listened, then said exactly what I needed to hear. "Those absolute monsters! Clara, you realize none of what they said is actually true, right? Your business is real and successful. You are talented and hardworking. They are just too stuck in their narrow definition of success to see it." "But what if they're right?" I whispered, old insecurities resurfacing. "What if I'm just playing at business?" Emily said firmly, "Are you kidding me? You turned down wholesale orders last month because you were at full production capacity. You have a waiting list for custom pieces. You just hired your first assistant. Those are not signs of a failing business." She was right. While I had downplayed my success to avoid criticism, Clara Designs had grown steadily year after year. I had recently been approached by a major retailer about stocking a collection. "Why do I still care what they think?" I asked. "Because they are your family," Emily answered softly, "and because they trained you from childhood to measure your worth by their standards. Breaking that conditioning is incredibly hard." After we hung up, I drove back to my Brooklyn apartment on autopilot. When I closed the door, it felt like a sanctuary. I walked through my apartment focusing on evidence of my actual life rather than the fictional failure my family had constructed. The walls were covered with framed press clippings from design blogs and magazines that featured my work. My home studio showed organized workflow. Spreadsheets documented 6 years of steadily increasing revenue. The portfolio contained glowing customer testimonials. I opened my laptop and looked at the email I had been putting off for 3 weeks. Sterling and Sage, a major retailer, was offering a significant opportunity to feature my designs in their spring catalog, with a minimum order that would triple my annual revenue. I had been hesitant about scaling up production while maintaining quality, but now the decision seemed obvious. I looked at childhood photographs on my bookshelves. Our family at the beach when I was 11, everyone smiling for the camera. My high school graduation with parents standing proudly beside me. Were those genuine moments or staged performances for public consumption? That night, I barely slept, alternating between crying, anger, and strange clarity when pain subsided. By dawn, exhausted but calmer, I understood I had to make a fundamental choice: continue chasing acceptance that would never come, or prioritize my own well-being and self-worth. For the first time, the answer was completely clear. I deserved better than what they had planned. I deserved to be seen and valued for who I actually was, not who they wanted me to become. The realization didn't instantly erase 29 years of conditioning, but it provided a small, solid foundation I could stand on and start building something new. The next morning, I woke with swollen eyes but unusual clarity. My phone showed 3 missed calls from my mother and a text, "Where are you? The caterer needs final numbers." No concern about my sudden departure, just logistics for her perfect party. I set down the phone without responding and poured coffee. As I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by jewelry designs and order forms, a plan began taking shape. For once, I would not be emotional or impulsive. I would be strategic and methodical, just like when building my business. First, I called my therapist, Dr. Lang, requesting an emergency session. She had an opening that afternoon. "What you overheard was emotional abuse, Clara. Their planned intervention was not about helping you, it was about controlling you and forcing you back in line with their expectations." "But they're my family," I whispered. "Families should provide love, support, and respect," she said firmly. "Being related by blood doesn't give anyone the right to belittle you or manipulate your life decisions. You built a thriving creative business on your terms. That deserves celebration, not intervention." We spent the rest discussing healthy boundaries and the grief that comes with accepting family members for who they really are, not who we wish they were. After we hung up, I had created an emotional framework to support the practical strategy taking shape. Back in my apartment, I developed a detailed action plan, breaking everything into manageable steps. Step 1, cancel my attendance at the family Christmas gathering without contacting them directly. They would find out when I didn't show up. Step 2, accept Sterling and Sage's offer to feature my work in their spring catalog. This was a business decision I was considering anyway, but the timing felt both symbolic and practical. Step 3, organize an alternative Christmas celebration with my chosen circle of friends who had consistently supported my dreams and valued my work. Step 4, arrange delivery of the family gifts I had already created, along with personalized messages, to my parents' home on Christmas Eve when I was expected to arrive. Step 5, establish clear boundaries for any future contact with my family, including what behaviors I would and would not tolerate going forward. Step 6, retrieve my childhood belongings from my parents' house before they could be discarded or donated. The final step presented the biggest challenge. I called a legal contact who specializes in property rights. She confirmed my fears. Since I had moved out years ago, everything I left could potentially be considered abandoned property. However, she recommended writing a certified letter stating I had not abandoned my belongings and intended to retrieve them. I wrote the letter immediately, describing specific items of emotional importance in my childhood bedroom, including journals, photo albums, artwork, and early jewelry-making materials. I sent it certified mail that afternoon. Next, I called Emily to tell her my plans and asked for help. Without hesitation, she offered her family's vacation cabin in the Catskills for our alternative Christmas celebration. "It's beautiful in winter," she said. "There's a huge stone fireplace, enough bedrooms for everyone, and it's only 2.5 hours from the city." I contacted friends who had become my true support system. Noah, my first retail partner who took a chance on my jewelry in his boutique. Claire, a fellow artist who shared studio space with me during my second business year. Adam, Emily's husband, who helped build my display racks and website. Each immediately agreed to join what Claire named our chosen family Christmas. The executive at Sterling and Sage was surprised but delighted with my quick acceptance. We scheduled a meeting in early January to discuss designs and production timelines. For gift delivery, I hired a high-end service specializing in personalized presentations. The owner was fascinated by my story and promised to personally deliver each carefully wrapped piece on Christmas Eve. With each step completed, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The grief was for the family relationship I had always wanted but never actually had. The liberation came from finally accepting this reality and choosing to prioritize my own well-being. 3 days before Christmas, my parents' attorney responded to my certified letter rather than them contacting me personally. It stated coldly that I could schedule an appointment to collect belongings after holidays with staff present to supervise. The formal, impersonal tone confirmed I had made the right decision. On December 23rd, I packed my car with gifts, food, and winter clothes, preparing to leave for the Catskills the next morning. That evening, I sat in my quiet apartment looking at my Christmas tree, a modest but beautifully decorated fir representing my independent life. For the first time since overhearing my family's cruel plans, I felt completely confident in my decision. I was no longer willing to shrink myself to fit their limited definition of success. I would no longer apologize for following a path that brought fulfillment rather than status. I would no longer accept being treated as less than because my dreams were different from theirs. Tomorrow would mark a new tradition based on mutual respect and genuine love rather than obligation and appearances. As painful as the break was, it felt like the first truly authentic Christmas of my adult life. December 24th dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for the drive to the Catskills. Snow was forecast for later that evening, promising the white Christmas that everyone dreams about but rarely experiences in the city. I finished loading my car and took one final look at my apartment, decorated with handmade ornaments and natural garlands that my mother would have dismissed as crafty instead of elegant. Everything felt right. The drive upstate was peaceful, with holiday music playing and landscape gradually transforming from urban to rural. By lunchtime, I had reached the cabin, a stunning log structure nestled among snow-dusted trees. Smoke was already rising from the chimney, indicating someone had arrived before me. Emily rushed out the front door as I parked, hurrying over to help with bags. "Welcome to Freedom Christmas," she said with a huge smile. "Adam and I got here an hour ago to start the fire and unpack groceries." The cabin's interior was everything a winter retreat should be. High ceilings with exposed beams, massive stone fireplace with a roaring fire, comfortable couches arranged for conversation, and large windows showcasing forest views. Adam was in the open kitchen unpacking grocery bags while Christmas music played softly from hidden speakers. "This is absolutely perfect," I said, feeling my shoulders relax for the first time in days. Throughout the day, others arrived one by one. Noah brought cases of wine from his brother's vineyard. Claire arrived with her famous homemade pies and bread. 2 more friends, Ryan and Caleb, showed up with additional food and decorations. By 4:30 in the afternoon, our chosen family had completely gathered, and the cabin was filled with laughter, delicious smells, and genuine warmth. Nobody asked about my biological family until I brought it up myself. There were no awkward questions about my business success or lack thereof. Nobody made veiled comments about my life choices or appearance. The contrast with my family gatherings could not have been more dramatic. My phone started ringing at exactly 7 o'clock in the evening. I had anticipated this, knowing we would normally be gathering for Christmas Eve appetizers at my parents' house around this time. Sarah made the first call. I stepped into one of the bedrooms for privacy before answering. "Hey Clara, where are you? Everyone is asking about you. Mom is freaking out," she said. Her voice carried more annoyance than genuine concern. "I am not coming," I said simply. A pause followed. "What do you mean you're not coming? Of course you are coming. The entire family is here. Grandma Eleanor just asked about you." I meant exactly what I said. "I will not be attending Christmas this year," I replied calmly. You cannot just not show up. What am I supposed to tell everyone? This is so irresponsible, Clara. Just like your... She stopped herself, but I knew she was about to say, just like your hobby business. Tell them whatever you want, Sarah. I am confident you will find a way to spin it while preserving the family image, I said. She made a sound of surprise at my directness. Before she could respond, I added, by the way, everyone's gifts will be delivered this evening. I put a lot of thought into each one. I hope everyone enjoys them. I disconnected the call before she could react. Within minutes, my phone rang again, this time from James. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father called, another voicemail. Finally, I received the call I had been both anticipating and dreading. My mother. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Mother, I said. Where are you, Clara Elizabeth Mitchell? Her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. I am celebrating Christmas somewhere else this year, I replied. What do you mean somewhere else? The entire family is here waiting. The caterer planned for our exact head count. Your grandmother flew in from London. This behavior is completely unacceptable, she said. Is it? I asked, surprised at how calm I felt. What is more unacceptable than plotting to ambush and humiliate your daughter at Christmas dinner? What is more unacceptable than scheming to clear out your childhood bedroom while you sit at your table? What is more unacceptable than calling your profession a hobby and your accomplishments childish? There was complete silence on the line. Then she said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course she would deny it. I heard everything, Mother. Last weekend in Dad's study, you, Dad, James, and Sarah planning your little intervention with James's friend Stephen to shame me about my finances, planning to pressure me into abandoning my business for a job at Dad's firm, planning to empty my childhood bedroom for Cousin Vanessa while I sat through your public humiliation. Another moment of silence followed by a tactical shift. Clara, we misunderstood. We're concerned about your future. This intervention comes from a place of love. I actually laughed, which surprised both of us. Love? I said. Was it love when you called my handcrafted jewelry trinkets? Was it love when you compared my business to macaroni art on a refrigerator? Was it love when you said I was embarrassing the family because I don't have a corporate career like the Whitman's daughter? You were eavesdropping, she accused, her tone hardening. I was about to knock on the door when I heard my name, and thank God I did, because otherwise I would have walked right into your trap, I said. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting as usual. Just tell me where you are and we can discuss this when you get here, my mother said. There's nothing to discuss. I will not be attending Christmas or any other event where I am not treated as an adult making my own decisions, I replied firmly. If you don't show up, your father will be furious. There will be consequences, she said, the threat hanging in the air. But for the first time in my life, it had no power over me. What consequences exactly? Cutting me off financially? I've been completely self-sufficient since graduation. Taking away my childhood bedroom? You're already planning to do that. Damaging the family's reputation? I'm sure you'll create a convincing story to tell everyone about my absence. Clara, you're being dramatic, she said. No, Mother, I am finally being honest. I deserve better than how this family treats me. I deserve to be respected for the business I have built. I deserve to be supported in my choices, even if they're different from yours. And since I can't get those things from you, I'm spending Christmas with people who actually appreciate me. On her end, I could hear voices in the background, probably family members wondering about the call. Your gifts will be delivered this evening. I spent months designing custom pieces for everyone. It's completely up to you whether you appreciate them or not. This conversation is not over, she said, her tone ice cold. It actually is. Merry Christmas, Mother. I hung up the phone and sat on the edge of the bed, trembling slightly, but feeling stronger than I had in years. Emily knocked gently on the door after hearing a soft tap. Is everything okay in here? We heard your voice getting firmer. I smiled at her concern. It's actually better than okay. I just confronted my mother for the first time in my entire life. She grinned and handed me a glass of wine. Then I would say that definitely calls for a celebration. When I rejoined the group, nobody asked for specific details, but Noah raised his glass in a toast. To Clara, the most talented jewelry designer I know and the newest member of the Christmas cabin tradition. As everyone clinked glasses together, my phone vibrated with a text notification. To my surprise, it came from my brother James, not my parents. Not everyone agreed with the intervention plan. Call me when you're ready to talk, it read. An hour later, the gift delivery service confirmed that on December 23rd, I packed my car with gifts, food, and winter clothes, preparing to leave for the Catskills the next morning. That evening, I sat in my quiet apartment looking at my Christmas tree, a modest but beautifully decorated fir representing my independent life. For the first time since overhearing my family's cruel plans, I felt completely confident in my decision. I was no longer willing to shrink myself to fit their limited definition of success. I would no longer apologize for following a path that brought fulfillment rather than status. I would no longer accept being treated as less than because my dreams were different from theirs. Tomorrow would mark a new tradition based on mutual respect and genuine love rather than obligation and appearances. As painful as the break was, it felt like the first truly authentic Christmas of my adult life. December 24th dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for the drive to the Catskills. Snow was forecast for later that evening, promising the white Christmas that everyone dreams about but rarely experiences in the city. I finished loading my car and took one final look at my apartment, decorated with Our Christmas Eve celebration lasted well into the night. We cooked dinner together, each person taking charge of a different dish in the spacious kitchen. Unlike the formal catered affairs at my parents' house, this meal was collaborative and relaxed. Wine flowed freely, stories were shared, and genuine laughter filled the cabin. We ate at the long oak table by candlelight, passing dishes around family style, rather than being served by staff. The conversation flowed naturally, covering topics from creative projects to travel dreams to philosophical debates. Nobody was trying to impress anyone or maintain appearances. It felt authentic in a way my family gatherings never had. After dinner, we gathered in the living room where Adam had built the fire to a bright blaze. Outside, snow was gently falling, creating a picture-perfect Christmas scene through the large windows. "Time for a new tradition," Emily announced, pulling out a box of plain wooden ornaments and art supplies. Each year, we each make a new ornament to commemorate something important from the year. As we worked on our creations, sharing materials and ideas, I felt a profound sense of belonging. My ornament was shaped like a bird escaping from an open cage, painted in shimmering gold and deep blue. Nobody needed me to explain the symbolism. Around 11:30 at night, my phone buzzed with a text from my Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister. "I just heard what happened. Not everyone supports your parents' approach. Your grandmother was extremely angry when she learned what they had planned. Your gift was absolutely beautiful. Thank you," it read. Another message arrived shortly after from a cousin. "Your jewelry is incredible. I cannot believe I never realized how talented you are." Family dinner was extremely awkward when your mother announced you would not be coming. There were many questions she did not want to answer, it said. The messages continued throughout the night and into Christmas morning, December 25th. My absence had apparently created exactly the situation my mother had feared, a crack in her perfect family image. Several relatives seemed quite vocal in their criticism of the intervention plan once it became public knowledge. The carefully crafted Mitchell family image had developed some serious fractures. Christmas morning at the cabin was everything I had always imagined Christmas should be. We woke up slowly, gathered in pajamas around the tree to exchange the small, thoughtful gifts we had brought for one another. Mine, of course, were pieces of jewelry that I had designed individually for each friend, expressing something important about their personality or our relationship. Claire cried as she unwrapped her necklace, a delicate silver pendant with a tiny reproduction of the first ceramic piece of hers that I had ever purchased. "This is why your business is successful," she said, wiping away tears. "You do not just make jewelry, you create meaning." After the gifts, we made breakfast together before heading out for a walk in the freshly fallen snow. The woodland was magnificent, with white-covered trees and only our laughter and the crunch of snow beneath our boots for company. Uncle Daniel called me in the afternoon, which surprised me. I walked outside onto the porch to take it, watching my breath create clouds in the frigid air. "Clara, I want you to know that I never supported that intervention nonsense," he stated immediately. "Your business is legitimate and impressive." "Thank you, Uncle Daniel," I said, genuinely moved. "That means a lot to me." He continued, "Things are quite tense here. When your gifts arrived yesterday evening, they caused quite a commotion. Your grandmother unwrapped her bracelet and proclaimed it to be of greater quality than her Tiffany pieces. Then she demanded to know why no one had informed her how successful your jewelry business had become." I could not help but smile, imagining my powerful British grandmother taking my side. "The truth came out rather explosively over dinner," he explained. "Your mother attempted to minimize your absence, but your grandmother is sharper than they gave her credit for. She extracted the entire intervention strategy piece by humiliating piece. I have never seen her that angry." "What did my parents say?" I could not resist asking. "Your father returned to his typical justification, stating it was for your financial stability. Your mother alternated between defending the plan and accusing you of overreacting. Neither strategy was very well received by the wider family," he said. A weight I had not known I was still carrying lifted from my shoulders. It mattered that others in the family understood the inappropriateness of what had been planned. "There is something else you should know," Uncle Daniel explained, his voice softening. "I went through a similar experience with your grandfather when I chose architecture over entering the family business. It took him years to accept my path, but he eventually did. Do not rule out the prospect of reconciliation, but be firm in your boundaries." After we hung up, I rejoined my friends inside and shared some of our conversation. Their supportive comments confirmed that I had made the right decision by choosing this genuine celebration over the appearance at my parents' immaculate but artificial event. Late that evening, as we sat around the fire playing board games and eating leftovers, my phone notified me of an email from Sterling and Sage. They had reviewed my portfolio again and increased their initial purchase by 40%. They also wanted to include me in their spring advertising materials as an upcoming designer to watch. I passed my phone around, receiving enthusiastic congratulations. I knew that this opportunity would transform my business over the next year. The timing felt symbolic. This professional validation arrived just as I had stopped seeking acceptance from those who would never genuinely provide it. The irony was not lost on me. By rejecting my family's Christmas and their intervention, I made room for the exact type of success they said they wanted for me, although on my own terms rather than theirs. As the night progressed and people retired to their rooms, I remained at the window watching the snowfall. For the first time in my adult life, I felt entirely in sync with my values and decisions. The sorrow of familial rejection was still present, a subtle ache beneath the joy of the day, but it no longer defined me. I had chosen myself, and as a result, I realized I was surrounded by those who had chosen me just as I was. January brought crisp, bright days and a fresh start. 6 weeks after the Christmas that changed everything, I stood in my new workshop space, which was double the size of my former studio, with wide windows for natural light and enough room for 3 assistants to work alongside me. The sterling and sage order required the expansion, and my designs would be prominently featured in their spring catalog, introducing them to a national audience. Since announcing our partnership, business inquiries had surged fourfold. I was no longer a struggling artist, but rather the owner of a thriving small business with real momentum. My family situation had shifted in numerous ways since Christmas. As Uncle Daniel had predicted, various individuals reacted differently to my boundary setting. My mother remained coldly professional in her occasional communications, insisting that I had misunderstood their intentions and overreacted. She had created a narrative for her social circle about my absence during Christmas, something about an emergency with a key client that simply couldn't wait. The story protected her image while erasing my agency and choice not to attend. My father attempted to establish authority in the only way he knew, by sending an email outlining financial projections for my business based on entirely incorrect assumptions about my sales and expenses. The document included a timeline for when I would need to accept reality and enter the corporate world. I responded with a concise but professional note, thanking him for his concern while assuring him my business was profitable and expanding. I did not provide data or figures that he could criticize or dismiss. Sarah remained distant, clearly aligned with our parents' viewpoint, but James had reached out several times, each conversation slightly more open than the previous one. During our most recent chat, he asked genuine questions about my creative process and business strategy, and he seemed genuinely interested in my responses. I never realized how much strategic thinking goes into what you do. It's not only about producing attractive things. You must anticipate trends, manage production, and develop client relationships. It's actually quite comparable to what I do in a very different industry. This small acknowledgement that my work required actual business skills rather than merely an extended craft hobby felt significant coming from him. The most surprising revelation came from extended family members. My grandmother had sent me a handwritten letter expressing her admiration for my business drive and excellent craftsmanship, along with an invitation to visit her in London. Several cousins had placed orders for custom pieces, seeing me as a professional rather than a family oddity. Regarding my childhood belongings, I had scheduled an appointment as directed by the attorney's letter and arrived with Emily for moral support. To my surprise, my mother was not present. She had arranged for Rosa, the housekeeper, to supervise instead. This small act of consideration, not requiring me to confront my mother personally, was the closest thing to an acknowledgement of my feelings that I could help for. Rosa helped me pack items quickly, occasionally.
It was mid-February when everything changed again. I received a call from Aunt Patricia asking if we could meet for coffee. I agreed cautiously, unsure what to expect. We met at a quiet cafe in Manhattan, and she looked nervous as we sat down. "Clara, I need to tell you something," she began. "After Christmas, your grandmother did not just get angry and leave it at that. She actually did something about it." I leaned forward, curious. "What do you mean?" Aunt Patricia explained. "You know that large trust fund your grandfather set up for his grandchildren, the one that is supposed to be distributed when you all turn 30? I nodded, though I had honestly forgotten about it since I never counted on family money. "Well, your grandmother is the trustee who controls the distribution terms. After what happened at Christmas, she revised the conditions. She added a clause that rewards entrepreneurship and independence. Specifically, any grandchild who has successfully run their own business for at least 5 years receives double their share. Any grandchild who has financially supported themselves without family assistance for at least 5 years also receives a bonus." My mouth fell open. "You are the only grandchild who qualifies for both conditions," Aunt Patricia said with a slight smile. "Your portion just became substantially larger than James and Sarah's, and your grandmother made sure your parents knew exactly why." I sat back, stunned. "When does this take effect?" I asked. "You turn 30 in 4 months. The distribution happens then."
Clara, we are talking about enough money to expand your business significantly, buy property, or invest however you choose, she said. Does my mother know? I asked. Aunt Patricia nodded. She found out last week. Your grandmother sent a formal letter to all the parents explaining her decision and reasoning. She specifically mentioned that true success is measured by independence, creativity, and integrity, not by conforming to others' expectations. I felt tears welling up, but they were different this time. Not tears of hurt, but of validation. There's more, Aunt Patricia continued. Your father's business partner, Gregory, the one who was supposed to offer you that marketing position, he actually approached your dad after Christmas. Apparently, he saw the jewelry you made and was incredibly impressed. He wanted to discuss a potential corporate partnership featuring your designs in gifts for their high-end clients. What did my father say? I asked. He turned it down without even mentioning it to you, she said sadly. But Gregory reached out to me because he knows we stayed in touch. He would still like to explore that opportunity if you are interested. It could be worth 6 figures annually. The irony was almost too much. My father had rejected a legitimate business opportunity for me because it didn't fit his narrative of my failure. Your parents are facing some consequences of their own, Aunt Patricia added. Several family members have distanced themselves after learning what they planned. Your grandmother publicly criticized them at a family gathering, and professionally, word has gotten around in their social circles about how they treated you. Some people are questioning their judgment and character. I absorbed all of this information slowly. The universe, it seemed, had delivered its own form of justice. How do you feel about all this? Aunt Patricia asked gently. Honestly, vindicated, but also sad, I admitted. I did not want revenge, I just wanted respect and acceptance. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know, sweetheart, and for what it's worth, I am incredibly proud of you. You stood up for yourself when it mattered most. Over the next few weeks, the full impact of my grandmother's decision rippled through the family. James called me, and for the first time he sounded genuinely humble. Clara, I owe you an apology, he said. I supported that intervention because I genuinely thought your business was not sustainable. I was wrong. I let Mom and Dad's perspective cloud my judgment instead of actually looking at what you had built. Thank you for saying that, I replied. It means a lot. He continued. The trust fund thing really opened my eyes. Grandmother didn't just change the terms to reward you, she did it to teach all of us a lesson about what really matters. I've been doing some thinking about my own choices and whether I'm living for myself or for Dad's approval. This was the most honest conversation I'd ever had with my brother. We talked for over an hour, and by the end, I felt like we might actually build a real relationship based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. Sarah, on the other hand, remained distant. Through family members, I heard that she was bitter about the trust fund situation and blamed me for turning grandmother against them. Some people, I realized, would never be able to see past their own perspective. In March, I met with Gregory, my father's business partner. He was a kind man in his 60s who seemed genuinely enthusiastic about my work. Your father made a mistake not telling you about my interest, he said directly, but that's his loss. I would like to commission a signature jewelry line for our top clients. We're talking about 50 to 100 custom pieces per year, with your full creative control and prominent attribution. The contract he offered was more than fair. It would provide steady, high-end income while allowing me to maintain my boutique business and creative freedom. I signed it on the spot. By the time my 30th birthday arrived in April, my life had transformed completely. The trust fund distribution happened as Aunt Patricia described. The amount was substantial enough to purchase a beautiful combined live workspace in Brooklyn, invest in top-quality equipment, hire 3 full-time assistants, and still have a significant nest egg for future growth. I organized a birthday celebration at my new space, inviting my chosen family and supportive relatives like Uncle Daniel, Aunt Patricia, and my grandmother who had flown in from London specifically for the occasion. Grandmother pulled me aside during the party. She was an elegant woman in her 80s with sharp eyes and a warm smile. "I want you to understand why I changed the trust terms," she said. "When I learned what they planned to do to you, I was ashamed that I had raised a son who valued appearance over substance, control over support." "You did not raise him that way," I said gently. "People make their own choices." She shook her head. "Perhaps, but I could make a choice too. I could show the entire family what I truly value: independence, courage, and integrity. You demonstrated all of those qualities when you walked away from that Christmas dinner you never attended. You chose yourself when it would have been easier to comply." "It did not feel courageous at the time," I admitted. "It felt terrifying." She smiled. "That's what makes it courage, my dear. Doing the right thing even when you're terrified. I'm exceptionally proud of you." As the party continued, I looked around at the people celebrating with me. Emily and Adam, who had supported me from the beginning, Noah, Claire, Ryan, and Caleb, my chosen family, Uncle Daniel and Aunt Patricia, blood relatives who had proven that family could be supportive, and my grandmother, who delivered justice in the most impactful way possible. My parents had not been invited, and I didn't feel guilty about it. Perhaps one day we'd reconcile, but it would have to be on terms of mutual respect. I was no longer willing to accept anything less. It's been a full year now since that devastating December discovery. As I sit in my beautiful studio on a snowy evening preparing for this year's Christmas, I find myself reflecting on everything that has changed. My business, Clara Designs, is thriving beyond anything I imagined. The Sterling and Sage catalog was a massive success, leading to features in major fashion magazines. The corporate partnership with Gregory's firm provides steady, high-income work. My boutique pieces are now sold in over 50 stores across the country. I have a waiting list for custom work that extends 6 months out. But more important than the financial success is the personal growth. I've learned that true family is not always determined by blood. It's determined by who shows up for you, who respects you, and who celebrates your authentic self, rather than trying to reshape you into their image. I've learned that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's essential for self-preservation and healthy relationships. When I walked away from that Christmas dinner I never attended, I wasn't running away from family. I was running towards my own truth and dignity. I've learned that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most can be the ones who hurt you the deepest. Not because they are evil, but because they are so trapped in their own limited worldview that they can't see you clearly. My parents genuinely believed they were helping me by planning that intervention. They couldn't understand that their version of success was not the only valid one. I've learned that karma exists, not as supernatural punishment, but as natural consequences. My parents' actions cost them respect in the family, damaged their relationships with other relatives, and created a rift with their daughter that may never fully heal. Meanwhile, by staying true to myself, I gained everything I actually needed. Through my therapist, I've learned that healing from family wounds is not a linear process. Some days I still feel the ache of wanting parents who could celebrate me as I am. Some days I am still angry about the years I spent trying to earn approval that was never going to come. But those days are becoming less frequent, and the pain is becoming less sharp. James and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. He has started his own business consulting firm, partially inspired by watching my journey. We meet for coffee monthly now, and our conversations are real in a way they never were before. He recently admitted that he had always envied my courage to follow my passion, even when he criticized it. Sarah and I remain estranged. I have made peace with the fact that not every family relationship can be salvaged. Some people need someone to blame for their disappointments, and I cannot control being cast in that role. My parents reached out once, about 6 months ago, through Aunt Patricia. They suggested family therapy. I agreed on the condition that they first acknowledge what they had planned and apologize for it. They were not willing to do that, insisting they had done nothing wrong. So we remain at an impasse. The door is not locked forever, but neither is it wide open. If they ever genuinely acknowledge the harm they caused and show real change, perhaps we can rebuild something. But I will not accept breadcrumbs of respect or conditional love ever again. This Christmas, I am hosting the celebration at my new space. Our chosen family tradition continues, now in its second year. We will cook together, exchange handmade gifts, and create new ornaments representing this year's growth and challenges. Grandmother Eleanor is joining us again, along with Uncle Daniel, Aunt Patricia, and several cousins who have become genuine friends. As I prepare the space, hanging lights and arranging seating, I think about the woman I was last December. She was talented but unsure, successful but apologetic, accomplished but always seeking validation from people who would never provide it. The woman I am now is different. I am confident in my worth without needing external validation. I am successful on my own terms without apology. I am surrounded by people who love me for exactly who I am, not who they want me to be. If I could go back and speak to that heartbroken woman sobbing at the highway rest stop, I would tell her this: you are about to experience one of the most painful and transformative periods of your life. You will lose the family relationship you always hoped for, but you will gain something more valuable. You will gain yourself. You will learn that being the black sheep is not a curse, but a blessing. It means you had the courage to be different when conformity would have been easier. You will learn that chosen family can be even more powerful than blood family because it is based on mutual respect and genuine love rather than obligation. You will learn that walking away from toxicity is not weakness, but strength. You will learn that the people who truly matter will stay, and the ones who do not matter will reveal themselves through their absence. You will learn that success defined by your own values is more fulfilling than success defined by others' expectations. Most importantly, you will learn that you are enough exactly as you are. Your creativity is not a hobby, but a gift. Your business is not a phase, but a genuine achievement. Your choices are not mistakes, but brave acts of self-determination. For anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar situation, seeking approval from family members who refuse to see your worth, I offer this advice. You cannot force people to value what they have determined to devalue. You cannot make people respect choices they have decided to dismiss. You cannot earn love that is conditional on you becoming someone you are not. What you can do is choose yourself, set boundaries and enforce them even when it hurts. Surround yourself with people who celebrate you rather than trying to change you. Build a life that reflects your values, not theirs. Seek therapy or support to heal from the wounds that family rejection creates. And remember that choosing your own well-being over their approval is not selfish, it is survival. The journey will be painful. There will be moments of doubt, grief, and longing for what could have been. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. The freedom to define your own success, the freedom to live authentically, the freedom to build relationships based on genuine connection rather than obligation. As I prepare candles around my studio, preparing for tomorrow's celebration, I feel profound gratitude, not for the pain I experienced, but for the strength I discovered through it. Not for the family that rejected me, but for the family that chose me. Not for the validation I never received, but the self-worth I finally found within myself. Christmas used to represent everything I could not have: acceptance, belonging, unconditional love from my family. Now it represents everything I have gained: authentic relationships, personal integrity, creative fulfillment, and most importantly, the ability to look in the mirror and genuinely like the person looking back. That is the greatest gift I have ever received, and I gave it to myself. To everyone spending this holiday season feeling like the black sheep, the disappointment, the one who doesn't fit, your difference is not your weakness, it is your superpower. The family that cannot see your worth is missing out, not you. And somewhere out there, your chosen family is waiting to celebrate exactly who you are. Sometimes the best Christmas gift is the one you give yourself, permission to walk away from people who diminish you and toward people who celebrate you, permission to define success on your own terms, permission to be exactly, unapologetically, beautifully yourself. This Christmas, I am not at my parents' perfect mansion with professional caterers and elaborate decorations. I am in my studio home, surrounded by handmade ornaments, mismatched furniture, and people who love me exactly as I am, and I have never been happier. Justice did not come in the form of revenge, it came in the form of living well, building something meaningful, and surrounding myself with genuine love. That is the truest victory of all.